Welcome to The Kid is in School, where we talk about whatever we want since our kid is not here to interrupt us. But we don't have a lot of time before the bell rings, so let's get right into it.
Is there actually a difference between thrifty and cheap?
Oh, I like the sound of thrifty better than cheap. I identify as thrifty, not cheap.
Well, it's something where either one probably has a bit of a negative connotation because it sounds like you're stingy with money.
Thrifty does as well?
Yeah.
I thought thrifty meant you're smart, you're crafty. You can be rich and thrifty.
I guess you could be rich and thrifty, but it always sounds, I don't know.
Well, what do you call a rich person who's smart with their money? Frugal?
There is frugal, but I guess what do you mean by smart with their money?
Meaning they don't overspend, they don't spend beyond their means. Well, there is no means.
Depends on how rich you are.
Yeah, really. But they live modestly. They drive an average car that is not a luxury sports vehicle with extra add-ons.
I have heard stories of that. Like maybe Chris Rock or someone like that drove a Civic or still does, never got like these expensive sports cars. And then, I mean, what's beyond like Elon Musk's budget? Like the moon? Like he literally can't afford the moon. That's beyond his means.
That's him being fiscally responsible. I didn't buy the moon, guys. Yeah. I totally could.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to situations, and I think we've talked about tipping before, where there are people that they want to split a bill at a restaurant. They're the ones that order everything, and then they say, let's just split it down the middle. And it's like, well, you ordered 5 drinks and 3 appetizers and an entree and a dessert, and all I did was get a salad. We're not splitting this thing down the middle, right? You ordered literally $55 more stuff than me. But then there's people who are cheap with tips, where they're like, they got the tip calculator exactly, decimal
But that's
points.
not being cheap. That's being. I'm more concerned with etiquette and doing it the right way. So the minimum to me is minimum politeness, and it's like, actually, the minimum tip is a maximum politeness, and then anything beyond that is generous.
So let me try to get this math. The minimum tip is the maximum politeness?
Yeah. Okay. Like all you require, it's what you're literally required to do. 20%. Now, if you give 21%, you're generous.
Okay.
But you said bringing out a calculator and making sure you give exactly 20%. That's not bad. That's like making sure you do it right.
No, I'm not. Well, there's the people who I maybe take it to an extreme where they do at 12.5% or something like that.
And they don't round up.
Yeah, they're rounding down.
The bill will say $12.43, and they'll be like, there you go.
I do think it's funny, the people that seem like they can't understand math all of a sudden. Like, there's a bill, and they go, I don't know, what should I tip? $4? Is that the correct amount? It's like, your bill was $100. It's not $4.
They do get very flustered in that moment. Because I think math does that to people. I get flustered with quick math, where it's like, take 20% of this now. I mean, I go, okay, 10% is this, 10% is that, add it. Or 10% is this, double it. That's my 20%.
That is 20%.
But I don't multiply by 0.2 in my mind.
Yeah, I guess, but all of this stuff is fairly easy, and
But there are shortcuts. But all I'm saying is some people could get flustered, especially if they don't know the shortcut. So they want to ballpark it. They want someone else who's quicker at math to just tell them they're correct in their guess. I think that's the deal.
I guess that could be. I don't know. I think that anybody who pretends to be super flustered like that and just throws out like $3, they know better.
It's wishful thinking.
I think it's like a con game where if you just act like you're confused, then people will be like, oh, they didn't mean to just leave.
Not a lot of
6% tip.
Not a lot of trust in your fellow man, is there?
No. I'm very skeptical with people's intentions and motives behind.
Well, you
things.
know what they say about if you're not trustworthy, then you don't trust others.
Well, I don't know that that's true at all. I just have been burned a few times. So there's different things where like there are people who are beyond cheap. I had to go to a gig and rent a car with a couple other comedians, and it's a big SUV that we're renting. We're going out, and we had to fill up in gas just on the way there, and it was $90 to fill up this SUV. And one of the comics gave me $20 as gas money.
That feels right.
Yeah, for the entire trip. So just 90 was one way, 90 back the other.
Yeah, but 20 might have felt like 100% of what was in his wallet.
Maybe, but it was kind of like
he got paid.
It's just kind of one of those funny things where it's like, oh, I should probably give you some gas money, and it was $20. I'm like, that paid maybe for the tolls. Like that didn't even hit the gas.
So I guess if we're doing math correctly, 90 divided 3 ways is 30, but then multiply that by 2. So really, he should have been giving you $60.
Right.
That would have hurt, Like if you think you're giving 20 and really you owe 60. It's sticker shock is what it is.
Yeah.
Who decided to get that big SUV? If it wasn't his call.
Yeah, I mean,
he might have felt sensitive about that.
Maybe he did feel sensitive about that part. I don't know, but it was literally the only car they had, so it was like that or don't go to the gig. So.
I hate rental companies.
Yeah, but those are the type of things where if you go on another gig with someone like that, you go, okay, ahead of time. We're splitting this, right?
Right.
This is what you're going to be paying. This is what I'm going to be paying.
Yeah, you're not doing me like you did last time.
Yeah.
Sidebar, what are the ethics behind rental companies? Why reserve a car and then you show up and they have no cars left? It's like, didn't I reserve one?
I know. I think that almost every single time, at least here in New York, I have reserved something and it has not been the car that I've reserved.
That is so infuriating to me. Like you've gone through this more than once, so it's now par for the course for you, or it's just like part of the routine. For me, that would happen once and I'd never rent again. I would go by bicycle if I had to.
You got to. Like, that's the thing, which is my recommendation on that is always rent the absolute cheapest car listed.
Yeah.
Because they're going to end up just giving you whatever they have anyway.
Aha. So you can get an upgrade for free, but that way.
Right, you can.
I love that hack.
Yeah, which, sometimes the upgrade's okay. I think we've mentioned on the podcast before about the rental stuff, where we've got a Tesla because that's all they had. And then it's been okay on some trips. And then on other trips, it's like, oh man, this is not charging properly. There's something in the system causing it to charge all the way. I don't know.
Right.
And so it ends up extending the trip twice as long as it should be.
That's what people love. A longer time at a gas station.
I know.
Longer road trip.
Yeah. Sometimes things are worth a little bit more your time is worth more.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think about my friends being cheap or thrifty, and I think I am the thriftiest among my friends. So I'm probably the one that they're like, she's the cheapo. I'm just sensitive about like spending when I don't need to. However, I'm very generous with myself. If I overspend on myself, I usually end up with excess beauty products that I then give to my friends for free. So I'm generous in that way.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like thrift.
I guess I'm greedy.
Yeah, I'm cheap when it comes to some things. When it's things I don't want to do.
Right. Then you can't be. Then it hurts you to spend money on it.
Right. Which I think
insult to injury.
Yeah, I think all of it should be an agreement ahead of time. Sort of like, hey, do you want to come do this thing that I don't want to do? Or
right.
Or
lay all the cards on the table.
Right. So that we kind of know ahead of time. Now, there's times where, I went out to lunch with a friend and he picked the restaurant ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And he said, what about this place? And I looked at the menu ahead of time, and this is lunch, mind you. Mm-hmm. It was like $40 or $50 a plate.
That's too much.
And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I just wrote, hey, what do you think about that? Could you mind if we go someplace cheaper?
Now, for context, what's your ideal lunch price to pay?
I want to leave there no more than $20 in.
Sure, but I would ideally like to pay $12 every time.
Yeah,
not including tip. When the base price is $17, I get irritated because I'm like, now this is going to go past $20.
Yeah, $20 is including tip. I'd like to be all in, tax, tip.
So you're a $14, $15 lunch man.
Something like that.
Okay,
yes.
back to you.
We're talking about lunch, yes. And so he said, oh yeah, no problem. And we went to a Thai restaurant instead. And then we got out there, $20 each with tax and tip.
Gotta love Thai. Right. Gotta love Thai people. Love the country, Thailand.
Yes. And great restaurants, very affordable lunch specials. And that was fine. He was actually like, I'm glad that you picked someplace else because I didn't look at the prices when I picked that place.
Oh dear. Yeah, so he had sticker shock too.
Yeah, so when he went back and saw it, he goes, oh boy, that was a lot more expensive. And if he had just said yes, I would have been kind of stuck. So.
And sometimes even if you have $40 to drop on lunch, you're not getting $40 worth of food.
Never once have I ever gotten $40 worth of food anywhere.
You're
lunch,
getting
dinner.
an inflated price, yeah,
No.
with like with regular portions.
And the problem is that probably because I grew up in an area where buffets were like $5.99,
Oh,
and so
you're
you
right.
think unlimited food for a very cheap price. So the idea of getting small plates of something and it being $40 and
Right.
half of it's just garnish around the plate, I'm like, I can't. I can't
I
do that.
better not see any plate if I'm spending $40.
No, 40,
I don't want to
40
see
bucks
any
is
part of this
grocery
plate.
money. Like that's
Right.
not one meal.
It's a grocery bill. Well, it's funny that you mentioned buffets because in hindsight, I would pick probably 4 things out of the 30 things offered at a buffet as a child, you know? I'd be like popcorn shrimp, fried okra, a roll. You know, it was just very limited. So really, was I eating $5.99 worth
you
of food?
combine those 2 things, it's the saddest po' boy ever.
It's the po' boy's po' boy.
Yeah, it's a real po' boy. Yeah,
Extremely po' boy.
yeah, well, I guess it's talking about like buffets. What is your go-to if you go beyond? Because I don't know if I've ever seen fried okra there, and if I did, I probably skipped it, and so I blocked it out of my memory because I do not like okra at all.
You were like, what is that? What's alien from outer space
Well,
is that thing?
I'm sure I tried it because it was fried.
Yeah.
And I've tried everything fried, and then I found out, ooh, this is not.
This isn't
it's not
shrimp.
for me.
This is slimy inside. What's that about?
Yeah, fried shrimp for sure would be something that I would have gotten a lot of and because I'm thinking about Ryan's Steakhouse, which
We went
was
to
just
Ryan's
a buffet
in
basically.
Indiana. Yep.
And I always got chickpeas. So at the salad bars,
Okay.
it was just I would pile up the chickpeas.
Just
on my
straight
plate.
from a can?
No, at the buffet.
I know, but I meant, don't you think they just decant those from a can? Or you think they rinse them? Like, there's nothing to the chickpeas, right? Or do they season them? Do they put speckled green?
It's probably just from a can.
Got you. So you
Yes.
like pure?
Now that you think, now that I
That's
think
okay.
about it.
That's fine. It's a whole food.
Yeah.
You like whole chickpeas. That's funny. I couldn't be bothered with them. To me, that texture was off. I ate them, but I was like, ugh, these things.
And you like fried okra, which I don't get.
Yeah.
That's the texture. It does not work.
Fried
for me.
okra has it all: slime, crunch, chew.
Oof. Yeah, slime. You lost me at slime. For sure. I can do crunch and chew, but I can't do slime.
Sliminess is also why you don't tolerate eggplants, by the way.
Oof. Yeah, I'm not into those either. Which I had an aunt that was vegetarian, and so we would see her maybe once a year, maybe more like once every other year, and we always went to Olive Garden, and she always got the eggplant parmesan because that's, I guess, one of the only things that she would get ever.
Yeah, it
And-
tastes very close to chicken parmesan.
Probably.
It's got
Yeah.
a lot of cheese and a lot of sauce.
And so I'm sure I tried that at that time, and it was not good.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And by the way, she wasn't even my aunt. She was my dad's aunt.
I was going to say, I wonder which of your aunts it was. Okay, so she was older. You know what? I thought you were going to say she always ordered the unlimited salad.
Which you would think a vegetarian would have done that, but I think
She could have stopped right there.
no. I think she did eggplant parmesan, probably the unlimited breadsticks.
Yeah. She's a big spender.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked, well, I guess I already explained it. Ryan's had really sweet rolls. You know, who's the one, though? What's the buffet that took over? It dominated the Midwest. Is it no, it's not Old Country Buffet. The one where you and I would go to meet with your parents and get Jell-O plus strawberry
You're talking
fondue
about
fountain.
Golden Corral.
Golden Corral. Somehow, Golden Corral just took over all the MCL cafeterias, all the Ryans. Like,
I could probably name just about every buffet growing up because there was those, and MCO was a cafeteria, which is very weird. Like it was not a buffet; it was literally a cafeteria, like you would have at school, like the school lunch, where you go along and go, "I'll have the corn, please." And there's a lunch lady back there with a hairnet that puts the corn on your plate.
it's like a role play theme park.
Yeah, and then
type
you
of
got charged
style.
for each item that you bought there at
Really?
the cash register.
We
yeah.
always met my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, at MCL cafeteria. I guess it was within everybody's budget at the time.
Well,
but I loved it.
I
as
guess
a
it
kid.
depends on what you get. You know, whether it's in your budget. If it's just a plate full of corn,
Yeah, my mom's probably happy. This one will just have corn and rolls, and if
40
you have any
cents.
fried okra back there, she'll take that. Sizzler was fun, although I always looked at in the front of the Sizzler line, and maybe it's the same way to this day. You could pick out a steak, and to me that was so boring as a child. I'm like, look at all these same pictures of the same steak, and the money. It was like, I don't know, maybe it said $12, but I thought, ew, too expensive.
too expensive.
Get
yeah.
the buffet. You got more options. At
Well,
the buffet.
I always wanted the buffet, and there was Ponderosa that had a
That's
buffet.
right.
And there's a Bonanza,
I never saw Bonanza.
which I believe, which I think I actually saw this recently because I think they still kind of exist. I think they're the same company. They just go by different names.
Oh.
And it's all based on the show.
Yeah.
Bonanza, I think.
I
'Cause they were
wish
at the
Michael
Ponderosa
Landon,
Ranch.
I wish people dressed like Michael Landon would welcome you in there.
Yes.
But not Bonanza Michael Landon. Highway to Heaven Michael Landon.
Yeah, well, you need that 80s hair.
The actual workers there do look like Highway to Heaven Michael Landon.
Yes. And
That would have been the better joke.
And I've told, maybe I've told it on the podcast, but we talk about buffets a lot on this podcast.
We haven't talked enough yet, so I'm glad we're back into it.
There was the Wendy's buffet, which was a trial thing.
Does that count? Isn't it just burger fixins?
No,
Oh,
it was no.
Tell me about it.
They had their whole salad bar thing, which is essentially a buffet. So they had the salad bar, which lots of places in the 80s had a salad bar, and 90s, I guess. They don't seem to do those anymore, probably because it's open air food and disgusting spreading germs. But then there was
What if we put the kitchen in the center of the dining room?
Yes, just let these customers who don't wash
their hands
and have no law requiring them to handle everything. And so then there was the two hot food areas. One was a taco stand.
Mm-hmm.
You made your own tacos. Mm-hmm. They had soft tortillas and one of those little tortilla holder things.
Oh, cute.
That I don't know where they brought them out from, microwave probably.
Mm-hmm.
And they also had crunchy tortilla shells, just like you get Old El Paso or Taco Bell.
When you say tortilla holder thing, you mean a shallow dish with a lid on top?
Yes.
That keeps them steamed? Oh, yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. I just had a flashback to Ryan's. There was a little boy, my age, who was pouring the soft serve into his mouth and sucking the end where it drips down.
Ugh.
And we saw it and we joked about it at the table with my mom, like, ew, look at that kid. And then we waited for the parents to find out. Finally, the parents shooed him away, but it was like, for trips and trips, we would not get the ice cream because of that kid.
Well, yeah, he got his filthy mouth all over it.
Ruined it for everybody. I just thought, I don't know who's been licking on this.
Well, that's the problem is all of those do-it-yourself restaurant things shouldn't exist like that. Like that, there shouldn't be a little ice cream nozzle out there for some kid to be sucking on.
Yeah, how is a small child able to reach it? That's the problem. Like it should have been higher up for the taller adults to serve it to the kids. I think in hindsight. Okay.
The fact is that those parents probably did just shoo him away and didn't tell anybody, and they were embarrassed. And
I'm just thinking about how my mom didn't come and scold him. Shoot, I'm the kind of parent that would come up and say, "Hey, don't do that."
Oh yeah, I think if I was anywhere near it, I'd be like, stop. Like, come on, dude.
I don't speak that way to kids. I go, no, thank you. That's how I do it. I sing a little song to them. No, thank you. That's not sanitary.
Yeah, the kid was 12 and you're talking to him like that. No, thank you. He's like, what's wrong with her?
Believe it or not, I may talk like a kindergarten teacher, but I don't have the patience to teach kindergartners. More than one. I like one at a time.
No, you get a look in your eye when you see kids doing stuff. And maybe you do a sing-songy voice, but your face is not sing-songy.
Ooh, maybe it's the face that compels them to listen.
Yeah, you have a very stern, stop doing that look on your face. Like, I'm not happy about this.
Resting substitute. Darn it.
Substituter. Substituter.
I have resting substitute teacher face.
Oh, that's a hard one to get out. Resting substitute teacher's face. Yeah.
So I'm frugal, and I think that one of the joys. I had a friend who was recovering from surgery the other day, and I helped stop by and help her get some stuff, reach some things that she couldn't. And then I walked back home, and on the way home, I found more freebies than I ever found in my life. And I thought, the Lord is smiling upon me because of my generous service
Thank
to
you
mankind.
for your service. Here is a bunch of junk somebody else didn't want.
I'm being rewarded in personalized freebies, and let me detail them for you. A plastic folder to put my daughter's drawings in, just an empty plastic folder.
Both of which I think should be thrown away, both the folder and the drawings.
Right. A tote bag that is silver lined so you can put your freezables in it while you're grocery shopping. Mm-hmm. A LL Bean blue corduroy jacket that fit me. It was my size.
It definitely was a jacket that fit you.
And finally, folks, no, one last thing. Two last things. A shelf to keep like a little, it was like I thought it was an IKEA shelf, but it turns out it's not IKEA brand. It's made in China, but it is one of those shelves that leans against your wall and it's 3-tiered. It's quite flimsy, but it holds board games, all right? So I got that, and I got a little tiny piece of paper that you would have just dismissed as trash, but it has labels for travel toiletries, shampoo, conditioner, lotion. I was in heaven. I'm like, who needs to go to TJ Maxx?
Wow. I wonder why I would dismiss that as trash. I mean, you found it in the garbage, but...
Man, just a week ago, I got you a Donkey Kong figurine off the street.
That is
you
true.
Gladly accepted.
That was fine.
We sanitize these things, and then they live in our house.
Well, freebies are, like, we've said this a couple times on the podcast. In New York, freebies are just out because people will set things out that are perfectly usable or nice. They just don't have space for it because we don't have space in our apartments.
Right. We also don't have time for garage sales to haggle with people. We're just like, just have it for free. My time is money.
You often see a sign on something that says works, so people know this is not just trash. It could be a coffee maker. I've seen tons of coffee makers. Televisions.
Yeah.
People put TVs out, computers. I've gotten video game stuff.
I love the signs. The signs are always too much information. Once I got a coffee drip machine that said, the sign said, "We switched to French press." Like, I don't need to know your life.
Well, you know what? They probably are thinking how every artisanal packaging that you get now has the complete story of the vineyard that it came from. And it's like, these are raisins. I don't care. You know,
right.
Why they started this.
Well, today I put it back. You'll be proud. But the Post-it was very long, and it said it was a smoke detector by the Nest. So it looked high tech. And it said, "This works well, but eats batteries at an alarming rate." And I thought, did they put the word alarm as a pun for smoke detector?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Anyone that writes out a note that long on a free thing that they just threw out doesn't have a great sense of humor.
So I love freebies. I love pulling them in. I pulled in 2 chairs. I even posted them on Instagram. So proud to find them. But then both you and our daughter thought they were very uncomfortable, so they went right back outside.
Yeah, sometimes there's a very good reason why people get rid of things, and it's weird to only have like to say we found 2 chairs, and people are like, don't you have chairs? It's like, well, in New York you get a couple chairs,
right?
You get a couple, and that's all you got room for.
I brought 2 in, and 2 were going to go back out. The 2 that I wasn't going to use, and you might ask yourselves, well, what if you have company over? And in that case, I would say we make do. I would either use my recliner. We have an office chair. Maybe a folding chair that we use to watch parades that's in the closet, like but you don't keep real unfoldable, statable chairs in storage in New York. Like, why would you take up 80% of your closet space?
Well, you just have it sitting out. You just have it sitting in your living room, an extra chair for no reason.
Right.
Which it just sounds like the most bizarre thing if you're not from here to be like, what are you even talking about? You don't have a full set of chairs at your dinner table. It's like, yes, correct, because you get the dinner table pushed up against the wall and you put some chairs around the remaining sides.
Now, I do have a friend who, when he was a bachelor, he only kept 1 fork in his house, and I thought that was a bit much.
Well, that's
J.D. Salinger hermit level.
That means that person has to wash the fork every single time they eat.
Great point.
Or they don't, and they're like that kid with the nozzle, and it's just like germs mean nothing to them.
He grew up to be the 1 fork man.
Yeah, fork. I can't imagine just having 1 fork. I don't like the number of spoons and forks that we have, and we've probably got, I don't know, 8, 10, maybe something like that. But we're always running out.
Oh, it's too small. I thought you were going to say it's too many, because we have salad forks that we use interchangeably with dinner forks. No,
we do not use them interchangeably. Maybe you do, but they are not the same size, and they do not have even the same sharpness. So,
oh, really?
The salad forks for some reason are a little sharper, and they're shorter, and they're stumpier, and I just don't like that. Yeah.
Oh, I always thought you just didn't like the look of them, but they actually function differently to you.
Not just to me, but to the entire world. That's why they're made differently.
Agree to disagree. I think it was invented by pretentious people who wanted to change the size of stuff.
Well, that's like saying a steak knife and a butter knife are just the same thing.
You can cut steak with a butter knife.
No.
Not as easily.
You cannot.
I like that we don't see eye to eye on everything because we broaden each other's horizons.
That could be what one way to describe it, broadening horizons.
Because I know one thing you can't be bothered with. Let's just say you don't want the inconvenience of trying to work harder at cutting your steak with a butter knife. But if all the steak knives are dirty, I would grab a butter knife in a heartbeat because I can't be bothered to wash the knives.
I can't even imagine what you are saying right now. Like it's
You can, because I'm about to bring up a Luke specific can't be bothered. The laundry. You will put it in front of the hamper, but not into the hamper. Because the hamper's behind a closet door. So you don't want to do this action of opening a door and dropping the clothing. You just want to fling it off your body and then run through the house naked.
That's not how it happens. That's not how it happens. Although that sounds like fun.
That's what I picture you doing. I've never seen it happen, but I just picture you going beep, 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 after you run away.
I think really what happens is that I'm cleaning up the house, and so if there's some dirty laundry that was in the bathroom after a shower or something like that,
right.
I'm grabbing that, I'm throwing it down there to put in the hamper later, and I'm cleaning up everything else in the house that's going on. So.
Okay, so you're saving it for hamper time.
Hamper time.
Stop. Hamper time. It's just we never get to that
That's
point.
That's going to be the name of the episode, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you for already knowing what speaks to my soul.
I do. I think that maybe it's one of those type of movie situations where you wrote that note all along, the one that was alarming, right?
Uh-huh.
It was you the whole time.
And I'm telling it about it as if I found it on the street, just to gauge how weird you think it is.
That's no, it's just much more of your sense of humor than some random person.
Oh, the pun. Right. You're right. I read into it. They didn't say all that. They were just trying to be verbose.
Mm-hmm. It's a Fight Club situation.
But instead of
there was no
instead of Tyler
other person.
Instead of imagining a stronger version of myself, I just imagine people make puns like I do.
Yes,
I like that. So maybe you don't understand in New York that we only have a limited number of furniture items, but it's so that our little apartment will look at the same level of cleanliness that your 4-bedroom house looks. You guys just have a craft room or something, or excuse me, the people at home, Luke. Some people in the Midwest just have craft rooms that just become catch-alls for beanbag chairs and kids' toys and rock'em sock'em bopper.
Rock'em sock'em boppers.
Is that? Are you picturing like an inflatable punching glove? That's what I was picturing.
Well,
when
there's
I said
those.
Sock'em.
What were those called? They were not called Rock'em Sock'em. That's Rock'em Sock'em Robots, I think. But
oh, okay,
there's
right.
Sock'em Boppers, maybe.
That must have been the bopper. Yeah. Anyway, that's where you put those the floaties that probably it's printed on those. Do not use these in a pool. You will drown.
They probably also say something like a disclaimer, like "Do not actually hit people with these," even though they are boxing gloves for children.
Right. You will not. Don't punch the wall with these in your hands. You will hurt yourself.
It's for appearances only.
Yeah. So anyway, but we don't have that. We like the closest we have in New York to your craft room, to a craft room, is an alley where people will throw their Popeyes cups and wrappers. You know what I mean? Like that's our catch-all. Is just the street. The
street is the catch-all for everything we're getting rid of, good and bad.
Yeah. Pretty much. But in New York, it is filthy. Another thing people who don't live here don't understand, they think it's extremely ridden with crime. I think statistically it might be because of the number of people here. Well, but I don't think it's because people that live here are brutish.
I think you'd have to define what statistics you're talking about, because there's per capita.
That's the one I mean.
Which changes, that's more of like a percentage type of thing. Like, per number of people, this is how much crime happens. So
then there's per capita, which is per number of fraternities. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, it's just you're so close on the pun there. You're so close. I know. Maybe you should talk to your alter ego.
Then there's per Captain Crunch, which is for cereal eaters.
There we go. And so, but then there is actual numbers. So there's like, let's just say murders. There is number of murders, which could be, in New York, let's just say 500 murders. Mm-hmm. And then you could say Oklahoma City, and there's 400 murders. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, there's clearly New York is more dangerous because there's 100 more murders. But then you go per capita, which is based on per number of people that are there. And you go, oh, there's 10 times as many people in New York City as Oklahoma City.
Right.
It's more dangerous because there's more murders happening per
Sure.
people.
Yeah. I would measure it by Dateline episodes. Like what setting did they use? And, like looking at it from over a year, how many took place in New York? The answer is usually 1 to 2.
Well, yeah, I guess it probably also depends on what type of crime you're looking at, because in Dateline episodes they're always sensational and it has to be somebody who had money, or it's a crime of passion,
right,
or an insurance scam. In New York it was you just sat too close to somebody on the subway, or you stepped on their sneakers and now you're dead.
Yeah, our passion here is limited to, we just snap, and that's not the same thing as being passionate about something.
It's not quite as, you can't get a whole hour out of, he just saw a rat and decided to push somebody in front of the train. It was just breaking point.
Have you ever had a New York breaking point? Because I know I have.
Myself?
Yes. Like where you snapped. You were out of character with your reaction to something.
The most, fairly recently, a few months ago, I yelled at somebody because...
A perfect stranger.
Because it was a late show I was coming home from. So coming home like at 1 or 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And my subway card had expired. So I had to get another one. And so I went to put it in, and there's a guy that got really close to me. And there's 2 available machines to get subway cards.
I'm laughing because I remember this story. Right. Yeah. Go ahead. He's all up in your guts.
And
I don't know why.
He's just standing like 2 feet away from me, just smiling, like a really weird, creepy smile. And I'm like... look at him, I give him the glare. There's like a New York glare of like, okay, back off. You're seeing, like, step back.
Right. You're trying to send him a message. Did you look him up and down for a weapon? Like, is this man going to knife me? Or you just...
Well, I did. Yeah, maybe briefly. Just kind of like, why is he so close?
Right.
And this particular station usually has a lot of police that are hanging out there anyway. So I don't know if there was a policeman or not, but I know this guy. And this guy was significantly smaller than me, too.
Okay.
And so he's just sitting there smiling. And so I'm having trouble with the machine. Not because of my thing, but because I was trying to refill a card. Mm-hmm. And it was not letting me refill the card. It was making me buy a whole new one.
Yeah, your card is too old.
Yes. And so it's an extra $1. But when I started to do that, he then got even closer and started to say something to me. Mm-hmm. Maybe he thinks he needs to help me.
Right.
And I was
he's mansplaining to you.
Right. And I was like, dude, back away. Get away from me.
Right.
Like, step back. Like, I don't, And then he kind of stepped back and was still, like, 1 foot and still was smiling at me. And I was like, why are you even this close to me?
Uh-oh.
Like, what are you doing? Like, back off.
Step off, Elaine. Yeah. Step off, George.
And, it was just a brief little encounter. And he stepped back, and then I paid for my thing and left. But I don't have a lot of those where I'm just, like, yelling at people.
No, I know. I can count the number of times you've yelled. You raised your voice to me on one hand. Like, it's just been a handful of times.
Yeah, I don't get too loud. I did get in a fight walking a dog once, which...
That's rough.
It was something where it was back when we had our English Bulldog, and he didn't walk very far or do anything. And so I had let him off leash in this little area that nobody ever goes to. And, of course, this day somebody walks their dog by there, and he charged at him. He didn't bite him. He didn't do anything like that.
He's like, get out of this is my special place.
Right. And the dude kicked him.
Oh.
And I was like,
Maxie boy.
Okay, I'm gonna get him. Right. I got the dog. Don't worry. Because the first kick I get, you're maybe scared. But I went down to reach him, and I had my hand about an inch away from
you're
dog,
tending to your dog.
And he kicked him again.
Oh, dear.
Away from me. Almost like, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, I'm not done punishing your dog, sir.
Right. And so I
like,
stood up and I said, I got him.
Dog.
And the guy slapped my glasses off my face.
Oh.
And then we got into like a tussle over thing.
Was this man Will Smith?
He was the size of Will Smith, like, but I'm not the size of Chris Rock, so maybe that's a little different.
No, I just wonder when it comes to slappers.
Well, he didn't, and then at one point he did hit me in the temple with a fist.
Oh my gosh!
And it didn't affect me at all. Like, and I think that was the moment where he was like, "Okay, I'm kind of maybe I should be done here," because he was trying to be a jerk. Like, he tried to stomp on my glasses, and I prevented him.
Tried to stomp on your glasses? Yeah. This man's out of control.
And so I grabbed him, and was getting my hands around his throat almost. And
oh my Lord.
Then I was just like, I pushed him away and said, just get out of here, man. He never said a word in any of this. He honestly looked a bit like a school shooter, except just a big white dude with sunglasses, but the kind that Guy Fieri would wear.
Oh, strange.
Yeah, like these weird Oakleys, and
Yeah,
he had
yeah,
like
like
combat
Matrix,
boots on
first
and
movie.
stuff, and it's just like what. I don't even know. He never said anything, not a word, and then he just walked away like Lurch.
Wow. He didn't want any of your smoke. He thought he did, and then he changed his mind.
I do think that he did realize that this wasn't just going to be as easy as he thought it was going to be. And I didn't want to be in a big fight anyway, because you never know with anybody. Mm-hmm. First of all, you don't know how trained they are anymore. People are every
I roll my eyes at that remark. Nobody is trained in martial arts except Joe Rogan and his
That is not true at all.
buddies at the gym.
There's all these guys now see this stuff on television, so they are going to MMA gyms and things like that. So even if somebody has an itty bitty amount of training compared to somebody that has none, they're in an advantage.
But does that feel statistically more likely than the fact that they're just carrying a weapon?
Well, that was what I was getting to, is that you don't know if somebody has a weapon or not. So
right.
a
That's
knife
the more
or
common.
gun.
That was the more common thing. I just am surprised you led with you don't know
Because you
that
don't
they've trained
you don't
in.
lead with the best. You don't go, you might have a gun, or he might know how to, sidekick
You don't know
somebody.
if they're a superhero or even a superhero sidekick. Well, my moment of New York of snapping was I missed a train. I was at West 4th Street, and I just had a day. And I had run up the stairs to catch it, and it didn't come or something. And I just remember shouting, "No!" I just was like, I couldn't say no. And I think I said the F word too. I was like, F, no, F, no. And then someone, I think a guy, came up behind me and said, "The next one's coming soon, ma'am."
Yeah.
And I was like, ah. But I just said, I unleashed the beast. Because when a train is leaving, it's so noisy. People can't really hear you shouting anyway.
Well, apparently they can.
Yeah, they could.
So much so that somebody had to talk you down from your episode.
Yeah. They were like, "Ma'am, you're going to hold up this whole show if you jump on the tracks. So why don't you back up and just take a moment, take a breath."
This is the type of person that's going to make us all late to work. Let's just, please, just calm down.
Ironically, it was a guy wearing Oakleys and combat boots. Yeah.
Was he walking a basset hound?
You had a change of heart after your incident years ago.
Yeah, well, I think that, so New York does that to you after a while. And is it dangerous? Is there? Yeah, but every place can be dangerous, and it's not more dangerous than most places, just generally speaking. But when you see like the TV representations, I don't know do you think it's accurate or not accurate the way they...
What's accurate is they're using actual locations. They're in New York City. So, but what's inaccurate is they will cut to what's supposed to be further down the block, and it'll be a completely different location.
There is that element. Well,
you're in a different neighborhood now. Let's just say, we're going into our workspace, and then inside the workspace was recorded in New Jersey or something.
Yeah, I think some people are a little more accurate in terms of vibe, because there's things like Law and Order or SVU, any of those type of shows where it's not really the vibe of New York.
Right.
It's more of, this is a crime drama. In fact, we've started watching the show Will Trent.
Yeah, and it's good.
But that takes place in Atlanta.
Right.
And it's got the same vibe as Law and Order, basically. It's got the same kind of aesthetics where you're like, oh, this is supposed to be taking place in Atlanta, but nothing about it is really Southern.
Yeah.
And so...
nobody's eating peach pie. Right. Or a peach.
Nobody's drinking Coca-Cola or going to the Coca-Cola museum.
No one has a ticket stub from the Coca-Cola museum.
Right.
Right. I agree with you that sometimes you can get the vibe. Well, all the external shots are going to be accurate. Like picture it. We're in Georgia. But you and I just did a show at City Vineyard, and we passed the firehouse used for Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. Now today they treat the tourists with a little hanging Ghostbusters sign, so you know that, is this the firehouse? It definitely is. But the interior, you can peek right in and see this isn't what they used to shoot the film.
No, it's just a firehouse.
It's like a firehouse.
Yeah, there's a fire truck sitting there, and there's
no room for a camera crew.
There's no room for a giant ghost prison.
Right. They make it look like a warehouse in the film. So they must have shot in some kind of Williamsburg warehouse, I guess. But
no, I don't even know if they shot that part in New York. Maybe they did. But...
I know that near our neighborhood, they used to always block off traffic to shoot Elementary. So every episode I watched of Elementary, I tried to figure out what part of it was in our neighborhood, because none of it looks like That's, again, when we look out the windows, we see brick walls. We don't see sunshine and trees. But when you look out the windows of a television show, you usually see, the artificial sunlight.
Yeah, and there's always a dead body on those shows, and
Never once seen
never
a dead
see
body.
a dead body.
I see a lot of passed out bodies.
Oh, it's definitely see a lot of those.
I've passed a little bit of vomit.
But surprisingly enough, there's never any of those passed out bodies in the Law and Order episodes. It's just a dead body.
Yeah.
The streets are clean. There's nobody sitting there. It doesn't accurately portray that part of it.
Right. For that reason, that's why I don't buy into when they have a jogger see a body in the woods and scream. It's like, how do you know that's not just someone sleeping off a hangover?
Yeah, and if it's
Or a
New
bender.
York, nobody reports it anyway.
Yeah, you don't. That's not how you react in real life if you see a still moving body. Here's how I react if I see a person in the subway who is laying down and not moving. I slow my walk. I look. I can't see breathing. So then I look around at my fellow man and I'm like, does anybody else see this person that may be a corpse? But we're all quiet. We're just like, And then inevitably someone will say, Sir, are you all right? And then they'll stir and then you go back on your way.
I know. That's the thing. You end up getting burned too many times. They're not a dead body.
Thanks for joining us today. If you had a great time, let us know on social. Follow Kid is in School on Twitter and The Kid is in School on Instagram. Subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Be sure to throw us one of those 5-star ratings and share with your friends. Oh, and do it quickly before the kid gets home.